let me do that before I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So welcome for those who are watching the recording of our meeting. This is our conversation about the adult trip to Israel with Westchester Reformed Temple, December 2026. I'm Rabbi Jonathan Blake. I'm joined by Nimrod Shafran from J2Adventures, our tour provider. And we're in a wonderful, long relationship with J Squared in part because they work through the Reform movement and help us really experience what it's like to be in Israel as a Reformed Jewish person. The intention is that we are traveling on parallel itineraries with a family trip that will be led by Cantor Amanda Kleinman. So we're going to be there at exactly the same time, and we've designed the adults trip itinerary to at times merge or overlap and connect with the family itinerary, while much of the day-to-day itinerary will be traveling in parallel. So you'll see how that will function, but we've designed strategic touch points where the whole big group will all be together for certain keystone experiences. But during many of the days, I'll be with the grown-ups. And when I say grown-ups, that actually means anyone who's like a high school graduate and beyond. So college, graduate school, working, 20s, 30s, all the way up to people, if health and strength permits, into their 90s and hundreds. Though we are going to talk about the physical demands of this trip so that you can make wise and realistic decisions based on your own level of fitness and activity. We'll talk about all of that momentarily. The idea behind the trip is to experience the real Israel up close, in all of its beauty, all of its complexity, and yes, all of its bruises right now. We're going to be visiting an Israel that is transformed since October 7th, 2023. And I acknowledged just before we started the recording of this meeting that we saw the last hostage return for burial in Israel this week, and thus have this week marked a milestone where we're now entering a new phase of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Um, the trip is designed around the twin hubs of Jewish life in Israel, the two cities that I describe as the most unalike cities on the planet, even though they're only, 35 kilometers apart. Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. We've selected wonderful hotels. I actually have stayed in the Tel Aviv Hilton. I have never stayed in the hotel that we're staying in Jerusalem, but I'm very excited that Nimrod reported that we got a stellar rate to stay at the Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem, both in terms of amenities and especially in terms of location. These hotels really hit the bullseye for what I think a WRT trip can provide. All of you who've known me for a while know that I'm, of course, deeply in love with the Jewish state and the Jewish people, but I'm also in a love affair with its arts and culture, its food, its language, its geography, its history. And so there will definitely be some of those elements that play to the things that I love, that I think a lot of you love too, like great food and arts and culture, and the sights, sounds, smells, and tastes of Israel will be foregrounded in this experience. So the last thing I'll say is that, if you have questions about, let's say, the logistics of the trip, J Squared is where you're going to turn for all of your questions. All of your questions about how do I book flights? What kind of travel insurance do you recommend? What should I pack for this trip? What do I do about my currency? Like all of the mechanics and logistics, J Squared is there for you. You want to talk to me about spiritual stuff, educational stuff. By the way, J Squared is great with that too. But for instance, you could come to me and say, are we going to be able to hear from a member of the Knesset or somebody? I follow this person online, and for the last 2 years, they've really been a clarion call that's helped me understand the situation on the ground. Any chance we could meet with that person? Send me an email, rabbiblake@gmail.com. And this way, I'll be able to do what I do best, and Nimrod and his team will be able to do what they do best. So without further delay, Nim, how about I hand things over to you and you can do the walkthrough?
Sure. So I just want to add just a couple of things about the company. One is that I don't know of another Israeli travel company that has two Reform rabbis on staff. So part of what Rabbi Blake was talking about, our connection to the Reform movement, we have two rabbis working for the company. Um, and we actually have an agreement with the CCAR, the the URJ, and the IMPJ, which is the Israeli Reform Movement, that we actually donate a part of our profits at the end of every year to the Reform Movement. It doesn't come on your account, but it means that when you're traveling with us, you are actually really supporting the Reform Movement because at the end of every year, they get a very big check from J Squared. Um, I'll try to speak louder. Okay. So that's really in a nutshell about the company. I'll share my screen and show you the itinerary. But I do want to say that we have a joke in the office. We'll send you the final program when you get back home. And so please don't get married to this itinerary because this is the first draft. Actually, Rabbi Blake, I didn't even open registration. I'm waiting for your green light. So
Yep.
you give me the green light in order to move forward with opening registration, but it just means that it could be that Rabbi Blake will come back to me and say, change this, change that. And so
Right.
it's a working itinerary. Um, the anchors will stay in place. The price won't change. The hotels won't change. The dates won't change. But what you see on a daily basis might change because again, Rabbi Blake might ask for changes, or the reality might change on the ground, and we might decide to make some changes because of things that are changing on the ground. Can you see my screen right now?
Yeah, it looks
Great.
great.
All right. So the trip starts on the 24th of December. That's when everybody is supposed to arrive to Israel. The trip will start with a welcome dinner with Mati Friedman. Um, okay, you'll meet in Jerusalem at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. That's the hotel that we chose for the adult track. It's not the same hotel where the families will stay. They'll be staying at the Inbal. So walking distance, but not at the same hotel. Mati Friedman, for those of you who don't know, is both an author and a journalist and an outstanding speaker. And he will be the one that will. There are some phenomenal speakers that I can't take any credit for them. They're all handpicked by Rabbi Blick. So Mati Friedman will be the opening speaker. You will meet with the director of the Israel Religious Action Center, Orly, which I believe that she was at WRT.
You spoke in March of 24 as one of our kind of here's a view from the Israel at war. But her main work is in social justice through a Reformed Jewish lens. So she's the director of the Israel Religious Action Center, which is the social justice arm of the Reform movement in Israel. Some of you know or have met or have heard of her esteemed predecessor, Anat Hoffman, who spoke at Israel at WRT many, many times, and also interfaced with many travelers on WRT trips to Israel. Orly is her wonderful successor, a close friend of mine, and a real beacon of justice and truth. She's fantastic.
We will include touring in Jerusalem on this day, and you will get to spend some time at Machane Yehuda because it is Friday, and that's the day to go to Machane Yehuda with the rest of Jerusalem that's going to be there in the market. You will spend Kabbalat Shabbat services at Kol Neshamat. It's one of the Reform communities that is based in Jerusalem, and hopefully we'll also be able to organize either a home hospitality dinner or a communal dinner together with Kol Neshama. Um, Saturday morning, this is where you join the family track for Bnei Mitzvah service at Hebrew Union College, the Jerusalem campus. HUC has three different campuses: Jerusalem, New York, and Los Angeles. I've seen the New York campus. I don't know about the Los Angeles one. I think the Jerusalem campus is probably the most beautiful one, overlooking the old city of Jerusalem from the rooftop of HUC.
Which, by the way, is about 100 steps from our hotel.
Correct. That very close to your hotel.
Very close.
I You'll visit the old city on Saturday. There are a few things that we want to show you that even if you've been to Jerusalem before, you probably haven't seen this because the Tower of David, for example, has been completely renewed. We're planning to take you into the Christian Quarter with a few experts from the Rossing Center. And even for people that have been to Jerusalem multiple times, they always find new places that they haven't been to when they go with the Rossing Center to the old city. You will meet with Professor Reuven Chazan the following day. He is really one of the best speakers to explain to both Israelis and non-Israelis about the meshugas of Israeli politics. Who who uh, who is against who right now? What's happening in Israeli politics? So he'll try to really teach you in 1 hour about everything that you need to know about Israeli politics.
And by
You
the
will
way, it'll be a month after the election. So it's going to be very interesting because the government could still be unformed at that point. There might still be some horse trading happening in the Knesset. Who knows?
I mean, it's
It'll
always interesting, but yes,
always interesting.
this will be a very good time to talk politics. You will visit the Israel National Library. That is also a fairly new building, and even if you've been to Israel before, I'm not sure that you've seen the Israel National Library. Rabbi Blake, did you have a chance to go?
I have been,
Okay, it's
but
an
I've never
amazing.
taken a WRT trip there.
Excellent. You'll do some volunteer work, some hands-on volunteer work. And again, this is still in Jerusalem. Um, on this day, you'll meet with a professor who is the former head of the IDF Mental Health. So you can already understand what the topic of conversation will be. You'll visit Mount Herzl, which unfortunately has many new graves in the last 2 years, and continue to Yad Vashem because this trip, in terms of how we planned it, was supposed to cater to both people that are coming for the first time and people that have been to Israel before. And so we do want to include some of the classic sites that people that have never been to Israel before want to go and see. And so you will spend time at Yad Vashem. Um, on this day, you will check out of your Jerusalem hotel. You'll meet with Dr. Einat Wolf, again, an outstanding speaker and a former member of Knesset, and a leading voice when you talk about foreign policy and Zionism. And you'll then head to the Gaza envelope. Here you again, you'll join the family track, and you'll with the adults from the family track, you'll visit Kibbutz Be'eri. And I know that you have a personal relationship with some residents of Kibbutz Be'eri. And also in the evening, you'll have a barbecue dinner with IDF soldiers serving on the Gaza border. And again, you will join the family track. So this will be a big WRT event that evening. Following morning, again, you'll do some hands-on volunteer work with the family track, volunteering with Leket Israel. So picking fruits and vegetables, and giving those fruits and vegetables to poor families in Israel. This is a trip with Rabbi Blake, so we had to include wine. So you will visit one of the best wineries in the Judean Hills, and we can talk about which one, Rabbi Blake, because I know you're very picky
It's all
about
good.
which wine do you taste.
I'll do my homework
Yeah.
before we travel.
Um, and then you'll continue to Tel Aviv. You'll visit Jaffa and meet with Doris Ifawi. She's a very interesting woman. She represents a minority within a minority because she is both Arab and Christian, and she's a woman. So really, minority within a minority within a minority. So she will just talk about what it is like to live as a woman who is Arab and Christian in Jaffa, which is a mixed city of Jews and Arabs. You'll spend your evening in Tel Aviv. Again, you're staying at the Hilton Tel Aviv, one of the best hotels in the city. You will have a graffiti tour in Tel Aviv, graffiti slash street art. It's always changing. And one of the things that we like to say is that when you look at the street art and when you look at the graffiti, you actually get a really good understanding of what are Israelis talking about right now. Because it's a mirror reflection, or if you want, a microcosmos of what is happening in the country. And again, because things are changing so fast, the street art and the graffiti is also changing. You'll do a food tour again. This is a Rabbi Blake trip, so we had to include a food tour in the Levinsky market. A great market, great food, but also a great understanding of the melting pot that is Israel. Because every single food that you're going to taste originates from a different country, which represent different people that made Aliyah to Israel over time. Finally, you'll visit the Anu Museum, what used to be called the Diaspora Museum, a completely new museum, state-of-the-art museum. Um, so even if you've been to the Diaspora Museum, this will blow your mind. It's a really, really state-of-the-art museum, and that's how we want to finish the tour. Have a farewell dinner, and again, take an overnight flight to New York, returning, as Rabbi Blake mentioned, on January 1st. Right
Early,
now,
early morning.
early morning, correct. This is the price that we are offering, 58.95 per person sharing a double room, based on these two hotels, the Waldorf Astoria and the Hilton. Um, the trip is based on a minimum of 25 participants. Um, we opened registration for a Poland trip with WRT, and it sold very quickly. Same thing happened with the family track. A lot of people registered for the family track. We're expecting the same thing to happen with the adult track, that there's going to be a lot of interest here. Winter break in Israel is busy. It's a busy time. And so in terms of hotel rooms, I think we're gonna cap it in one bus for the family track, one bus for the adult track. So if you are interested, once we open registration, I do recommend that you make a decision whether you're coming or not. I do recommend that as a first step, you register for the land package. Don't buy your flights. Wait to receive a message from either WRT or from J Squared that we've reached our minimum number of participants, and then that will be the cue for you to go ahead and also book your flights. Questions?
Let's invite people to use the React function to raise a hand, or because it might be difficult to see if you're raising a hand in your house. But if you have a question and would like to chime in or to write something in the chat window, you can do that. I want to add, and Nim is happy, I'm sure, to elaborate. Many times when we've traveled to Israel, folks are allowed to, of course, welcome to come early and or stay late. And that's why we kind of say the trip that we're organizing is land only. So you can figure out your own travel plans. You can decide what class of airline seat you want to sit on. You want to use points, you can use points. You want to pay for upgrades, you can pay for upgrades, however you so wish. The key is that we're all together for the welcome dinner. And the other thing I'll say on the subject of all together is that's really the byword of this experience. The reason you travel with WRT is to travel with WRT, to travel with your congregants, to get to meet one another, to make new friends. And of course, I look forward to connecting with you as well. I know I speak for Amanda. She really is excited about having this experience all together. But what that also means is that, obviously accommodations are always made for extenuating circumstances. But if we have an organized activity on the itinerary, the idea is you're going on that organized itinerary. Occasionally, people say, well, I have family or friends in Israel. I want to make sure I can see them. That's great. You can arrange to see them, but we really request that you look closely at the itinerary, find a night where we don't have a group dinner and you know where you're going to be. And what we can't do is have you ask the bus driver to drop you off in a neighborhood that's not on our itinerary. You have to figure out where you're going to meet your folks, how you're going to meet, how you're going to get back to the hotel that night. Obviously, Israel is an extremely first world country, very high tech. I can't get a good Wi-Fi signal at Westchester Reformed Temple, but I can get it in the Negev. And of course, they have the equivalent of Uber called Gett, Get Taxi, which is a very good, same works the same way platform. They have excellent both local light rail in and around Jerusalem and connecting rail from the airport. Or if you're, again, this is more if you're extending your trip. Nim, one question I had is, will there be a kind of a delegation from J Squared to welcome at the airport if we know that a lot of folks are arriving at the same time?
Yes, so we will, once we get the flights from everybody, we'll identify the flight that has the biggest number of people on it, and that's the flight that we're going to arrange a transfer for. Um,
Great. And we can help with advice for those who are, happy to get yourselves from the airport to the hotel. It's really not that hard. It just takes a little planning ahead of time. But once you're there, it's rather easy to get from the airport to anywhere you're going. Vicky.
Yes, I jumped the gun and I have sent my deposit
We know, Vicky.
already.
We're gonna transfer you to the adult track once it's open.
Okay, that's it. That's all I
Great.
needed.
Awesome. Other questions or thoughts? Um, Nim, will you say a word about not necessarily the who of the guide, but the what of the guide? J Squared is an education focused travel company. And therefore the guides whom J Squared provides for these experiences, a number of whom I've worked with before, and some of whom I've said, hey, if we could get this one, that one, or the other one, I've worked with all of them and love all of them. But even if it were somebody I've never worked with before, I have such confidence in the organization that I know that the guide is going to be great. But we travel throughout our itinerary with a professional tour educator. So, Nim, maybe you want to just
Yeah. So
add a
just
word
give me
on
a
that.
second. I actually want to read from a book about the educator.
Great. Laura, you have a hand up. Do you want to just unmute yourself so I can hear your question?
Sure. Hi. Um, so I would be traveling with potentially with my young adult children who are college aged. Is this an appropriate tour for them?
Yes.
Okay.
Full stop. And again, there are a few experiences that we're doing all together, but I know your kids, by the way, and I know their level of intellectual interest and ability to be present in deep conversations, whether it is about religion, politics, or food. How old are
So,
Juliana and Leo now?
well, today is Juliana's 19th birthday,
Okay.
and
Happy
Leo
birthday.
will be turning 18 in the summer.
Okay. Well, that makes them both legal for the wine tasting as well in Israel, at parental discretion, of course. So pretty much everything on the itinerary is appropriate for them. There are a couple of things, like, for instance, for younger children who might be going on the family track, pertaining to, for instance, Yad Vashem. I think that the age is either 11 or 12, below which Yad Vashem will not admit uh, uh, visitors. And probably the Nova site too might be at our discretion, that that would not be appropriate for, pre-adolescents.
Okay. I mean, I
I
guess, and we can discuss more later, but even just sort of who else is on the tour. Would there be other people their age? Does it matter? Just that's that thought.
Right. And what I can do is, in the interim, I'm going to take a look at the families who are registered for the family trip and see what the age spread is there. And then also I can look at the initial interest list for tonight's meeting, because we're going to be sending out a link to this meeting once we upload it onto YouTube, so that others who couldn't join us in real time for this conversation can kind of like follow up, and see how many of them have kids or even grandkids in that bracket.
Okay.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. One
uh,
more question. I'm
Sure.
sorry, you probably
No,
answered it
please.
already.
Yeah.
But does that cost include or not include airfare?
The cost is exclusive of air, so it's land only.
Okay. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thanks.
who here is also registered for the Poland trip?
No, Mara and Brandon.
Okay, because Mara
Anyone
just sent me
else?
an email about the transfer. So for Poland, all the transfers are included, regardless of when you're arriving. Okay, I feel like that's a different story in Poland, not to be compared with Israel. All right. You guys know this guy, Dave Berry?
One of my favorites.
So Dave came on one of our trips a few years ago with a Reformed congregation because he belongs to a Reformed congregation in Florida with your colleague Judith Siegel,
Oh, I
Rabbi.
know Judy. Sure.
Yeah. So he's not Jewish, but his wife is Jewish, and they raised their kids Jewish. So he came on a trip, and he actually wrote in this book a full chapter about his experience in Israel. So
It
I'm not
must be a
reading.
riot. I mean, if you don't know Dave Barry, he's one of America's great living humorists.
So I'm just reading to you a few paragraphs about the educator because Rabbi Blake asked me to talk about it, but I think Dave Barry does it better than me. We get on the bus and we head south into the Negev desert. Along the way, we get some history from our tour guide, Doron Wilfand, who was born and raised on a kibbutz and served in the army. He graduated from Hebrew University and did postgraduate work in religious studies at Duke, where he developed a taste for American sports, especially pro football, which he knows more about than we do. Doron is a sweet, patient, compassionate, and very smart guy. He also is unbelievably well informed. He does not do tour guide patter. Whatever you ask him about, he gives you a thoughtful, nuanced, non dogmatic, and encyclopedically detailed answer, sometimes including personal anecdotes. If you ask him, for example, about the Israeli Palestinian conflict, he'll give you an articulate 20-minute argument for the Palestinian position, at the end of which you will feel, if you are me, suddenly pro Palestinian. But then he will give you an equally articulate 20-minute argument for the Israeli position. And you will feel, if you are me, suddenly very much of two minds. Then he will present a third way of looking at the conflict, and then a fourth, and maybe a fifth, until your brain is throbbing from looking at the issue from so many different perspectives, and you realize that the only thing you will ever really understand about the Middle East is that you will never really understand the Middle East.
Love that.
So I think this is a good example of what the tour educator's job is. The tour educator's job is not to give you exclamation points. The tour educator's job is to actually give you more and more question marks and to give you knowledge in order for you to make up your mind about the different topics.
I couldn't have said it better. And I know those of you who know me know how much and how often I say that in Judaism, questions are sacred, answers much less so. And a trip like this will help you ask the best questions. It will teach you to ask truly good questions, questions that open dialogue and that don't close it. Um, I want to say a word just preemptively, since we still have a few minutes before we need to conclude, that one of the reasons that I like traveling with J Squared is because I know of their ironclad commitment to their traveler safety. That's, I'm sure, true with any mainstream travel company to Israel. And it's mostly a testament as well to the seriousness with which the state of Israel takes the security of tourists. Um, I want to add that in today's world, I cannot give a guarantee of, bodily or emotional safety anywhere you might travel. I couldn't say it if you were traveling to London or if you were visiting, for instance, the Jewish Quarter in Rome, or if you were going to South America, or frankly, if you were traveling anywhere in the United States right now. I would not feel comfortable saying, I guarantee your safety. What I can say is that safety is a number one priority for J Squared, for us at WRT, again, both physical, spiritual, and emotional safety, so that the diversity of voices from across whatever ideological, political, religious spectrum will be honored on this trip. All ages, all levels of physical ability or disability, to the extent that one is able to participate, will be honored on this trip. I've traveled to Israel with WRT congregants who use mobility assistance through wheelchairs and walkers, but you have to be apprised that it's going to be, an active trip. If you're trying to pitch this to your college or older age kids, you don't want to use the word vacation. You want to use the word journey, adventure, experience, because vacation conjures up putting your feet up. And in this trip, you're going to put your feet on the ground. All of the tour organizers are in contact with the educator and with me as the rabbinic tour leader and the security authorities in Israel. So that, for instance, if a suspicious vehicle is apprehended on a highway that we were supposed to travel on that day, we ain't taking that highway. We might reconfigure the itinerary so that what we were supposed to do in the morning happens in the evening, and what happens in the evening happens in the morning. So that is part of the fluidity of the itinerary. It's always in living dialogue with the security situation on the ground. Having said that, at this juncture, tourism is coming back very strong in Israel, and already, I mean, Nim, you can probably say how many trips J Squared is planning alone from Reform congregations to be in Israel at the same time we're there. The likelihood is you're going to run into people you know from other synagogues.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be a madhouse in December because between COVID and the war, many congregations haven't traveled to Israel in a very long time. And so there are multiple congregations that are planning the trips during winter break. And in fact, Originally, we wanted the adult track to stay at the same hotel in Jerusalem with the family track. At least I wanted to. I don't know about Rabbi Blake, but the
Yeah,
Inbal
easier to coordinate, but it's all right.
but the Inbal doesn't have additional rooms for sale. They sold out for December, so it is a busy time, which obviously as a professional in the travel industry, I'm very happy about. But also as an Israeli whose family lives in Israel, I'm very happy that there's normality. Even though WRT did do a trip to Israel even during the war, there were 20 congregants that did go with Amanda to Israel in March of 2024.
Yeah. Other things like medical needs, the more you can disclose in a spirit of confidence and confidentiality, either with me or with the J Squared team, it is helpful for us to plan. But of course, Israel, again, first world country with first-rate healthcare should you need it in a God forbid situation. And dietary restrictions, I find, are beautifully accommodated in the Israel of today. So if you are, for instance, sensitive to any ingredients, whether it's gluten or if you have serious allergies, you can even wear a placard that says in Hebrew, I'm allergic to such and so. No sesame, that's a hard one. No gluten, that's an easy one in Israel. They're very gluten sensitive friendly in Israel. People with celiac or other gluten intolerance, you get treated very nicely. I think food wise, you'll probably never want to come back. It's a foodie paradise. It's really exceptional. So those are just some of the other things that I think about in planning a trip like this. Telecommunications are very easy these days. We don't have to cover that today. But basically, if you're using a device that was manufactured in the last 10 years, it's going to work in Israel. And we can figure out the rest as you go. You don't have to like bring traveler's checks or change money these days. You can get Israeli shekels out of any ATM with a debit card from any major bank. And I can show you how to use all of that. My Hebrew is passable, so if you're ever struggling to have a kind of basic interaction, whether what do I tell a cabbie or how do I read this ATM, don't worry, we've got you. Between me, the educator, we're all good. And most people speak English, by the way. So okay. Last question. One person want to ask a final question before we sign off for tonight?
I just
Nancy.
ha I just wanted you to reiterate how big the trip will be. I think you said one bus, but is that one family bus and one adult
Correct.
bus?
Right. So
Okay.
the intention is to have one bus for families, and I think we're already at 40 participants for the family track. And the viable minimum for the track we're describing, at least at the price we've advertised, is 25. If we get 40, there might be a modest discount in cost, but that wouldn't be my decision. That would be for NIM. Okay. So we would like to travel with one bus for family, one bus for adults. Most of the time, I'll be riding on the adult bus. It is conceivable that just in the interest of wanting to spread the schmooze around, that Amanda would take a couple shifts on the adult bus and I'd take a couple shifts on the family bus. But for the most part, my intention is to be present for the full adult track, Amanda present for the full family track, and these beautiful moments of shared joy and connection and prayer together as a congregation. I really can't wait. Nim was speaking directly to the experience of WRT. We haven't taken a large congregational trip. We took a solidarity mission in March of 24. And very proud of our congregation for doing that. But the last time we did a big trip was December of 2019. So it's going to be the first big trip in 7 years, and I just can't wait to share Israel with you and to learn with you and from you as we go. So I'm gonna cut here, but I am gonna say, Nim, you have my green light to open registration, and then what we can do from our office is we can share the link, and you register through the website. So Nim, maybe just say 2 words about how that looks, what people can do, and then I can take it from there.
Yeah, so it's self-explanatory when you receive the link to the website on how to register. And Vicky, you did it already, even though you did it for the wrong track, you did it already. Um, but and I think Mary, you did it for the Poland trip, so it's the same idea. You go online, you click on register now, You fill out your details. Part of the registration process will also ask you to pay a deposit. The deposit is non-refundable. It is refundable in two different scenarios. One is 72-hour grace period. So if you registered and you change your mind within 72 hours, your deposit is refunded, no questions asked. The other is if the trip is canceled for lack of participants. So even though we're expecting a lot of people to register, if we don't get to 25, and if only 10 people register, and Rabbi Black says to me, we're not going with 10 people, everybody gets their deposits back, which is also the reason that I said, wait until you hear from either J Squared or from WRT to let you know that we've reached our minimum number, and only then book your flights. Step number one should be register for the land package, wait for the official go, then book your flights.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And so, my friends, I'm heading over to Kol Ami for bringing together our multi-faith community to say that violence used against the citizens of the United States is never okay. And I hope that whether you're with us in person or online or only in spirit, or even if you have questions or challenges to what I've just said, I hope you'll engage with us the way we always do at WRT, which is with curiosity, openness, and respect. But I am above all grateful for the real swell of interest in gathering our multi-faith community tonight. So to all who are going, thank you for standing up with us. And I look forward to connecting around this trip soon. Please be advised that my inbox is going to be a little bit offline for the next few days as I'm traveling tomorrow, God willing, to Florida for a congregational wedding over the weekend and a little bit of engagement in the Sunshine State, which I understand is much warmer than here, though topping out at about 55 degrees. So thanks, everyone. Be
Bye,
well.
everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Nim.
Sure.